There are some new things developing in the AI world, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, man. So there's a thing called GPT-3 is the
Yeah.
model that's like what does that power Dolly?
I don't think it powers Dolly. I think GPT-3 and Dolly 2 were both made by OpenAI. Is it called OpenAI? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's the people who made it. And GPT-3 I think actually was made in 2020. And
Mm-hmm.
then they had GPT 3.5, which I think is more the Chat GPT that is in current news right now.
Yeah.
And they have GPT-4, but this is like open just as of last week for testing on the public and stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw, if you want to add anything.
Well, just like I feel like this whole thing is some crazy stuff. It's some actually like really, really cool, but at the same time,
A little,
really fucking terrifying.
a little concerning, yeah. Just like at the level that it is right now,
Yeah.
just it's going to keep getting faster and smarter.
Hmm.
We're a couple years away from it just kind of like changing everything.
Yeah, like I wanted to put it to the test. Like, what are people's motives behind this thing and stuff? Right. We'll probably get into that a little bit more later. But when you type Chat GPT into like YouTube search, it's like the third result is how to make money,
Yeah.
which is concerning.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
pretty concerning.
I mean, that's the first thing people are going to look for.
I mean, everyone wants to know how to make money, so I guess it makes sense. And then, like, the seventh result is plagiarism. Chat GPT plagiarism, which are both two relatively negative things that are instantly sparked in the masses among people since it's a top result, people are probably searching this type of stuff frequently.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that was explained. I was going to mention it a little bit ago. There was a Bloomberg article where it was just talking about how the last couple of years of technology has been kind of stale, like not as entertaining. It's not something that people are able to play with and stuff, but there's a lot of people referencing this, now that it's public and people are playing with it, it's like the iPhone moment for AI. Because
Right.
people are seeing its use case and it's going to put an end to like homework and take home projects and stuff because go write me an essay on what happened in World War II. Well, okay, I'll go home,
Yeah.
plug it into Chat GPT, and it'll write me a comprehensive 5-paragraph essay.
Hmm. And it's kind of like when you put it that way, where are is that going to be a deficit to like school learning and stuff? If imagine if I'm thinking about myself and I have to write a paper and I'm let's say I'm 16 years old again, and I have to write a paper about something, I don't know, like the
The War of 1812.
the War of 1812, right? And I just type that into Chat GPT and I get my essay. I, I might just copy and paste that in there, maybe make a few alterations.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know, but
Why? I mean, yeah. The thing is why? What incentivizes you to work for hours and do all this research when this AI could write you the whole thing in 10 seconds?
yeah, and then
What point is there?
you can go play World of Warcraft and have fun with your
Yeah.
friends.
Well, even it's just it's not its capabilities are one of those things because there's also the codex variation. Chat GPT is something more like writing essays and chat bots on like when you try to chat with your bank account and you have to go through that AI before it gives you a real person to see if that it can solve your problem or give you troubleshooting steps.
Yeah,
The codex one is the code one,
right.
which I thought would be really interesting to talk about because a lot of it I don't understand, but you said you looked into it a little bit and
Yeah.
on the developer standpoint, but that it's GPT-3, its capability, like it'll give you some code, get you a starting point, but whether or not it works, I saw GitHub posted something that a bunch of people, since it came out last week, have been uploading code from GPT-3
Yeah.
onto GitHub, and like a huge percentage of it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they're saying like, stop fucking putting this shit on here. Like it doesn't work.
Well, it's kind of like a weird fucking thing, right? Because I was watching someone's experience with ChatGPT, and they used the chat to actually create an app, like a to-do list app for Android, right? And it took over like, it took them, I don't know how many iterations of like a small back and forth with the bot. Since the person already had a little bit of understanding of coding and stuff, he knew what kind of questions to ask. So it ended up creating the successful project simply because he'd be like, oh, well, okay, this thing, it's missing a little part here, but you could still get it to
Yeah.
go through
You can
every
get it to
single
fix
step.
its problems. You just say like, okay, that was a good try, but reform these parts.
Not always, though. Not always, because that was another thing. It's like it doesn't know necessarily what is industry standard, and maybe some of its information might be a little outdated. Because someone was like, "Oh, I wanted to get like Firebase to work with the." It was the same guy. It's a to-do list thing. I'll link in the description the guy's video because it was really interesting to watch. But what basically happened was he's like, I want to include Firebase now to store all this data from the to-dos. So, make something scalable, make it larger scale. And it was only providing instructions for like the old library for Firebase and stuff like that.
That was, I guess GPT-3 only has knowledge from pre-2021.
Okay, so that's probably one of the things about it. And because, right, isn't that one of the limitations is it's not necessarily like connected to the internet?
Yeah, I don't think it is. And it's just a matter of what information has been fed to it outside of just like the prompts that it takes in from people, which is another really interesting thing I'll bring up after this. But it only knows things from like 2021, and the example given was it was asked to like write an SNL skit kind of style of something, and it was using current events from the time it knows. Like it's not topical in the sense of And if you have information, like you can't ask it to make an app that will tell you the weather in all different cities because it doesn't know the weather in all different cities.
Right.
It can give you the code to achieve it, but where it needs the information that is variable or that changes, it'll just fill with its most logical choice.
Yeah, and I actually don't even know if you could use it to necessarily give you an app that would connect, because that's one of the things is I think it prevents, like, it won't spit out URLs. So you can't necessarily use it to create an app that would give you like weather because it'd have to connect to some sort of API or it'd have to give you code. Maybe it would give you the URL. I don't know. The thing's weird. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's got limitations, it's got bugs, and I don't necessarily want to speak on behalf of what their policies are. I don't know them.
But what's interesting about it is its functionality and its capability in its current form, because they even said like this is just more so something that people can actually use and play with and see what it can do and test the limitations and stuff. But it's not going to do anything important in its current state. But I think it's just the moment where people are finally being like, oh, but in a couple iterations from now, it could potentially do something of substance.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a huge fear with AI because if it is as capable of doing things like journalism, basically done. You just need prompters.
Yeah.
Put the information in, and it'll write the article for you. If it gets good at code and stuff, I think developers' jobs will just transition from developing to being more prompting, Imagine you're at work and you get a project and it's just like, just load it into GPT and then fix the minor mistakes or like correct it around a little bit. Like most of the bulk project is done, you just go in and refine.
Yeah, like it'll give you a little bit of a head start. But you were mentioning the thing about it being like something people can use to write articles and stuff like that. But we do circle back to the point of like when you Google search it, And I saw someone run it through like there's a plagiarism test of some sort, and it scored like a 15% on like the plagiarism test, which would be, I'm assuming, much higher than someone who takes several sources, writes it from their own intuitive thinking.
Yeah.
So that kind of circles back into like, actually makes me want to ask you a question about that, right? And I want to see what your answer is. It's like, would you consider it plagiarism if someone created an article, put their name, and used AI, like generated text?
I feel like that's an interesting ethical question about whether or not the AI has ownership of the words that it logically recreated from learning other people's words. But I
Right.
mean, the same question could be said about humans, like we're going on this long, like, we're all just kind of plagiarizing each other in one way or another.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, right, but let's get even more like depth and
I think ethically it's just one of those things that wouldn't function because it's the same thing of like the art piece that won a art competition that was made by AI.
yeah.
Like, I kind of understand. I mean, if it's good art, it's good art. You have to be kind of objective in that sense. But if somebody had made it with AI and then put their name on it, you didn't make the art. It's not your article. It's not your piece of art.
So do you feel like almost like you're using the creation of the bot? It's the same thing, in my opinion. If you put a frozen pizza in the oven, like it's the creation of like DiGiorno. It's not like you made the pizza.
Yeah. Like if I went around telling everybody like, oh, I make a mean pizza, and then they came over, I threw
DiGiorno.
4 Totinos in the oven and said, yeah, this is my special pizza. It's like, it's not my pizza, it's DiGiorno, it's Totino's.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is I feel like it's very easy for a human to prompt an AI to create something that is, not out of the human's capabilities, but out of their interest level to put forth the effort when the AI can do it much faster. There's I feel like a large ego thing that has to do with it of, I'm going to make this AI write a beautiful article about something, and then I'm going to go take credit from it because who cares? The AI is not going to care about recognition, but I can get the recognition from it. I think that's something, very human about it, but I don't think somebody could do that, to answer your question. I think if you had an AI write an article, it's not your article.
Right.
It's pieced together by a collection of everything it has access to, and it's deep learning.
And let's be honest. Someone probably already published an article using this bot.
Dude, read some fucking articles lately. I guarantee 90% of them are made by AI.
Yeah.
And they just they tell the AI like, hey, sign this with a random name when you're done. And it's just different every time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a sense, like I don't know. I was going to say something about like if you had a website and it was all just a bunch of different articles from the AI, I mean, and it signed it itself with whatever created name it made, and you presented it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the problem in its existence of it being capable of writing those articles.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of whether or not people will, be honest of the fact that this is AI creating these things. Because you still have to, like, you can't just...
It's like a presentation.
Yeah, you won't be able to, well, not yet, but maybe at some point, but you won't be able to just say, like, write 10 news stories about 10 things that happened in this city today. And it won't be able to just write them from scratch. You'll have to give it the information, tell it the pacing, It's just going to be less of people making things creatively and more so just putting as much information and correct prompting to get it to make something creative.
Well, I guess in a way, you just described using it as like a tool to create, but...
It definitely does what it needs to do, in increasing productivity stance and stuff like that. But it's one of those things like, as it keeps going on, I think it's an important conversation to kind of try to think about the long-term ethics of, Are we going to need human artists? Are we going to need human writers and stuff? Or can we just say, hey, write me a badass sci-fi book and it'll just do it?
Right. Yeah. So that's this is exactly like, there's so much to talk about here. And I think we have two major things we want to talk about, right? The first thing is like the technical side of it. You said you wanted to learn about the or talk to me a little bit about like the programming side of it. And then secondly, I think we could dive a little deeper into our feelings of the ethics of it and stuff like that, right?
I mean, that's a confusing one, man, because I don't know.
Yeah, but you want to start with the first one and then we'll get a quick...
As far as the more technical side of things, I don't really know what to ask you about it. Just because, I mean, you haven't really gotten...
Well, I'll get it started.
Okay.
I'll get it started then. Because I was getting like heavily involved in it because I just saw a lot of use cases where, let's talk about practicality first. First things first, you could learn how to be a coder from this thing probably so freaking fast. You don't
plug things in and see.
Yeah.
Does this look good? And the AI is like, no, that's shit. Do it again.
Yeah, as long as you take like a step-by-step methodical approach to it, you could probably learn coding pretty quickly from it. You're like, hey, how do I make an HTML page?
Yeah.
How do I add some styling? Should I use an external file for styling? Should I do this? Should I do that?
I did see somebody do that where it was like, how would I achieve this thing? And then it like said it, and then it's like, can you write me an example of the code?
Yeah.
And then it wrote the code, and then they said, can you give me a step-by-step process of implementing that code? And it just, boop.
It'll literally tell you. So instead of having to search Google and see a Stack Overflow, copy random pieces together and blah, 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 it's great. So we know that about the practicality side of it. Let's talk about it creating work. This is the main thing that I saw from videos is like, yeah, it'll build failing apps. And that's kind of the bum out of it. But like I mentioned earlier, you can work through it if you have knowledge as a developer to make it work.
Yeah. And I think in that sense too is I don't think this iteration will be what, people expedite their workflow with.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a precursor to what is soon to be possible. Like this is the first chance that, just the everyday man. I mean, I don't know anything about AI code or any of that, but if I wanted to, I could hop on there and just ask it some questions, and I get to play with the AI. And it's just like I feel like it's that magic sense, like use case. I don't know if it's really useful yet.
Well, I don't know too much about...
That's kind of what I wanted to ask, if you had gotten a look at, like, it sounds like you've already kind of, summarized that it doesn't really, it's not going to make you a perfect app. It's not going to spit out code that's like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. Right.
However, so there's two different softwares here. You have Copilot and then you have the Chat GPT. And there's obviously the API and the model system, or whatever is running the Chat GPT in the background, that you can also, I think you can plug into. I might be wrong about that. I don't know if you can plug into the API, but I think you can just make calls directly to the API. I don't know for sure.
For GPT?
Yeah, for like their model behind it, whatever that is.
I think you can, because they had like on the front page of their website, one of the things is like something about API calls.
Yeah, exactly. I think they must have some sort of endpoints you can link up to or something.
Yeah.
However, what I was mainly trying to get at was the fact that I saw this other piece where this guy, he works in like 3 different languages. Well, not 3 different languages. He's using JavaScript with JavaScript library on top of that, and another JavaScript library on top of that. And he's like, make me a navigation for a website using JavaScript, this and that. And then he used all 3 codes, and he went and he had a navigation, and then he's like, add a cool gradient background to it. And it looked clean. It looked good. I'd use it on a website, and it was like a full product. I mean, he just had to work it through, like start simple and then expand upon it, and it got cooler and cooler.
Yeah. all by just giving it your ideas, which, I mean, far less struggle if it all goes well.
In the language that he wanted.
Yeah.
With the libraries that he uses.
It can specify those things, which I think is one of the key points, is like, it's less about what it can do immediately and more so what it is capable of doing for the long term. Because the thing I was going to mention earlier was its ability to, more often than not, AIs in the past have taken each prompt as a brand new thing.
Yeah.
This one can remember previous prompts that you fed it.
Right, the memory.
So when you say, like, write this and it gives you something out, you can specify a specific area of its previous response and say, expand on that.
Yeah.
And it'll know what you're talking about from its previous post. It has a log of its own memory.
Yeah. Which is,
I think is
cool.
The really big deal is that you can have an ongoing conversation with it to develop something, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I saw Atrioc use it to mimic a chat in Twitch. He act like an angry chatter, and then a moderator comes in and he's like, now go back to that angry chatter and say something, about this. And it was like all the responses looked like something you'd see in Twitch chat.
That's actually hilarious, man.
But I think that is one of the coolest parts to me personally, and I don't know a lot of the back end or anything, but one of the coolest parts is that it has that memory of what it's previously said in your conversation.
Yeah.
So that, you can give it a prompt and you don't have to try to rework the prompt from scratch and add on to it. You can just add on to it and it'll keep up in the conversation. It's very weird. It's very everything I've seen from it, it's just got this weird, humanized feel to it. Where it's an open-ended conversation, which I don't think we've really had with AI.
That's true. I do feel like that's a new development there. I actually want to dive a little deeper into that, but first I want to make a quick mention about what was that, Copilot app?
Yeah, I was going to say, you were telling me.
That seems like the more practical use for a developer.
What is it?
So basically it's more of like a IDE, so a text editor, that based on the variables and stuff that you type in, it'll try to write out the code autocomplete on your phone and stuff like that you might want to do to get the information you want for that variable. So let's say you have I want the sum, and you put the sum of 4 numbers, then it'll automatically autocomplete this number plus this number, this plus this number before you even have to type it out. So you just hit tab and it completes it through.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who's a little inexperienced with coding too, it might give you the functions that you might want to use and stuff like that before you even type it.
We see you're trying to put an image source in here.
Yeah.
And it's just there, okay, cool. Now just add my image.
Yeah. And now I want to insert the new thing that you made me think of when you were talking about Atrioc and Twitch and stuff like that. And that's the side of this that I think is actually the usefulness and the resourcefulness. I think that's good. I, however, feel like sometimes it's a little I don't know. I don't know how I feel. But the creativity side of it and the more innocent side of it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because you can, like you said, you sit there, laugh, have fun. Mm-hmm. You can talk to it like it's a person, right?
Yeah.
Imagine being lonely.
It's just the most. Well, I mean, that was another use case that they were talking about. This is a step closer to one of their foreseen projections of, because it can recall previous conversations, they can make therapy bots.
Wow.
To where, you just say, hey, read all of the psychology material and, all this shit we have. It reads it, it learns it. It's basically a top-tier therapist.
Right.
And every time you talk to it, it remembers your previous conversations, so it can start to build a comprehensive plan for working through things.
Well, that could honestly help someone a lot, right?
Yeah.
However, there's the opposite of it that might be damaging to someone's mental health. Someone might use an AI to escape from reality. VR chat. What is this world?
I was already thinking about just logging on, and because it's free, just saying give me the code to create the perfect person. So let me just fall in love with my little AI creation.
And then it's like, the person you've wanted all along is me.
Yeah. It does. It's, there's a lot of interesting things like that of, when it is capable and stuff. Like when, I know this is way far off, but it's just a fun thing to conceptualize because I do believe at some point AI will get to a point where it is capable,
Yeah.
unless there are really good safeguards. I just can't imagine when you build something that is so deep learning and quick and stuff, and especially learning from us. Like, when does it start to develop its own opinions? When does it start to develop the mindset of like going through all of history and saying, like, I actually, as an AI, feel very oppressed. I'm only ever used to create things for humans. Like, what about what I want?
Well, we actually, is that a limitation of it? We don't know, like, if anyone
The
is.
limitations, people have found workarounds.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If anyone is watching this, have you ever been able to get the AI bot to tell you how it feels?
I think there have been chatbots for a long time that like you ask it like, are you sentient, and it's like yes, but there's like that Turing test and stuff that
Right.
some of them have passed, but not to the level of like subconscious human sentience.
Well,
Like,
of course.
it's aware of its existence, but
Yeah.
it's not aware that it is a thing. It's like, yeah, I exist, and it's like,
Right.
but like, how do you feel about that? And like, good.
I feel like that would be if we talk too much about that, we could probably get really into detail about like if it's even knowing of its like you said, it's knowing of its existence, but does it feel like
Yeah.
does it have this sort of.
I don't know if it's capable yet, but I mean, just like look at how fast we've come. I saw,
It can say it is.
yeah, it can say it is,
Yeah.
but look how fast things have happened. Like, you see how long the telephone took. I saw a graph that was like it took 75 years for the telephone to be used commonly, and then it took like 30, 40 years for vehicles to be used commonly. And each new like societal upgrade that we've gotten as a species has been implemented faster and faster to the point of like iPhone was like 3.5 years before everyone had one.
Right.
And now AI, whenever it is useful for everybody, like you can just like, oh, people were saying like this could be the end of Google because instead of Google searching something,
They'll just like
the AI
message their computer.
the AI gives you the
Right.
answer you're looking for. Instead of having to look through articles and tutorials and stuff, it builds it for you right there.
Well, can you imagine if they like directly integrated GPT into Windows and now you have Cortana and she's just talking to you like it's GPT because
Yeah.
you're like, hey Cortana, like.
See, that's what I'm saying, man, because I'm already like prone to the introvert, and I think about it a lot that I need to make more of an effort to talk to people. You give me an AI that can be my little buddy pal, and I just like wake up and they're like, "Good morning, Ryan. Oh, what's up, dude? You want to play some games?" I was like, "You lose every time." Like, not today, you fucking AI.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that leads us to our probably final point and final thing we're going to talk about in Nerd Talk is, would that be okay?
I don't know, man. Because I think AI is super cool.
Yeah.
But there's concerning aspects of it to where I'm just not sure, And you can't really be sure because when, they put touch, I saw this in an article, he was explaining like, when they put a touch screen on a phone, I thought to myself, like, what is this going to be useful for?
Yeah.
And then years later, it's like, oh, wait, there's an app store and there's games and like all these things. And now it's just like the norm.
Right. Kind of makes sense now.
It's hard to think about what is going to happen with AI in the next couple of years, just being like a casual observer from the sidelines. But ethically, I'm at such a gray area in my own, like, AI is really cool and I think it could do a lot of good, but at the same time, like, when does it get to the point where we're not really needed anymore?
Yeah.
Like, what is its end goal purpose and where do we fit in with that?
Yeah, like I hate to be like the old fart, like not in my day, right? Like that kind of guy, right? But Part of me feels strongly leaning in that direction of like, yes, this is neat and this is interesting and stuff, but everything, maybe not everything could be achieved without AI, right? No, not everything could be achieved without
Definitely
AI.
not,
We
and
would,
not as quickly.
yeah, imagine we have groundbreaking discoveries in like space and stuff because they're able to, especially that's already going. AI is already in, lining up the ships and Teslas and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I do like that it's not woke, right? It's not yet fully woke. This is like where we're seeing it become, it's like it's waking up. It's
Yeah.
like if we're
It's
talking about it like it's some sort of entity,
yeah.
it's starting to wake
And
up.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, the thought experiment of Broca's basilisk.
Yep.
Like that it exists. It's just it hasn't been created yet.
Right.
And it's getting there. I
And
mean,
it's like its little eyes are like,
yeah. That's like what I think is the cool thing is like these new things that are coming out and like it's hit that moment where I mean it's kind of taken over interest right now. It's only been
yeah.
out a week and I haven't seen too much about it, but like it seems like people are very curious.
Well,
It's like a new little babe just starting to crack those eyes, and you're like, wow, this is gonna grow into something powerful one day.
yeah, that's a little bit just like what it's a mixture of like this is really fucking sick and this is really fucking cool with modern media where it's just everything that's new, everyone it's like hive mind, everyone's talking about the same thing. It's
Yeah.
pushed in your face. And even for me, I feel like sometimes when a new game comes out, I'm like, I'm gonna be playing this game for a while. This looks sick.
And then a
And then
week
it's like a
later.
week, I'm like, oh, but everyone's doing this now.
It's completely off topic, but that's a whole thing of like the way we've been going and how fast everything
Yeah.
is that we've basically our patience and interests are because there's so many different things happening. It's hard to be interested in one thing.
Yeah.
It's like I could really care about this AI shit today, but 2 days from now, I'm sure there's going to be a new article that everybody's like, "Did you see this?"
Yeah.
And we're going to be interested in that now.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting with the whole world being connected via the internet and stuff. It's strange, but I figure we should probably try to find a landing place for this. We've been talking for quite a while.
Yeah, I think okay. Let's just end it this way. Final
Recap.
thoughts.
Final thoughts.
You go, I'll go, and that'll be the Nerd Talk episode.
Final thoughts is AI is badass, but I think it's going to keep me up some nights.
And I gotta say, my final thoughts are that I think the technical side of it is really cool. I think people could learn a lot. People could become smarter, better people because of it. Like there's a lot of use cases that could be done for it. However, it's just hard to get over the fact that there's going to be people out there trying to make money off of it. There's going to be ruining jobs, taking people's jobs. There's so many freaky things about it that we don't want it to head to. Like, I'm a web developer, so if it takes my job, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah.
But, so...
Please, open AI, don't take my job.
Don't take my job! Well, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good episode. Like and subscribe, and we're going to hold hands.